Rocker MCK here, and this is an interesting topic I've came across on social media that I want to share with you guys. And that is the similarities of AEW and WCW at the beginning of both companies. Now, a lot of these similarities are actually kind of scary to think how likely they are. So let's break it down and get into it. First, they're both owned by billionaires who know nothing about wrestling. Ted Turner for WCW and the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars for AEW. Both promotions are owned by someone who knows something about the wrestling business. Eric Bischoff and Cody Rhodes. For Cody Rhodes being the dad of the American Dream, who helped with companies in the 80s. That's kind of his way of knowing around the business right now. Both companies announced their promotion during a form of a rally, and during that rally, they signed a big WWE name. Well, former at that point. You had Hulk Hogan for WCW and Chris Jericho for AEW. During both rallies, they also announced other big-name superstars that came over from different companies. AEW obviously has the whole Bullet Club, and WCW announced Sting and Ric Flair to be signing. One of the major differences in starting, though, is WCW already had a TV deal, meaning Ted Turner owned one of the TV stations. But AEW does not have a TV deal, even though they've been offered from a couple different channels. As of this point, they have not taken one yet. Another big similarity is one of their main matches to draw them in was a match that was done in a different company. Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair was a huge match that was kind of being advertised for WCW at the time. And WWE did it in like a house show form, but it was never really like a big pay-per-view match that a lot of wrestling fans wanted at the time. Well, AEW is doing Chris Jericho versus Kenny Omega too, which we had at New Japan Pro Wrestling. So both main events that they're hindering on weren't even their own creations as main events. Another problem both companies had while starting, which I'm going to put this as a problem for both companies, is they're signing way too many big name talent to get word of mouth out there that they have all these names in their company. Well, WCW had Ric Flair, Sting, Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, Goldberg, all these big name people. AEW's taken the Bullet Club, Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, the champion of AAA Mexican wrestling. So they're kind of making their roster all these main event guys, pushing some of the main event guys to the mid-card just because they have too much big name talent, which in WCW proved to be a horrible hindrance, and it was one of the reasons why they went out of business. But this is something that AEW can quickly fix, as to stop signing big name talent and start pulling little guys that we may not know that much about, but they can work in the opening matches and mid-card, and maybe one day build them up to be a main eventer. The contracts in both AEW and WCW do have one huge similarity, is that some of the big name talent has control over their own character and also control over the company. Now, if you remember, this was another huge reason why WCW went out of business. Eric Bischoff would give rights to part of the show to too many superstars, and with AEW giving it to part of the Bullet Club, Kenny Omega, and Chris Jericho, you're already looking at 6 people who have control of every single show. Now, I have to say, as WCW did have writers to help along, AEW announced that they're not going to have any writers help them along the way, which I guess, given their superstars' credibility to the show, that could work out to even out and not be that big of a deal, but at the same time, it could. My thoughts here are that AEW does have time to survive from all the disadvantages that they started out with, and they really need to do that before they even get a TV deal, because if they're following WCW this closely, honestly, the only thing that comes with them could be failure down the road in about 3 to 4 years. They may not even last the level that WCW did. And the only reason WCW did that is because they went head-to-head to Monday Night Raw, which AEW does not want to do, which could automatically put them at a disadvantage with all this big-name talent and kind of following WCW. So that is my thoughts on AEW following WCW way too closely. Let me know what you think about this down in the comment section below. Make sure to like this video and subscribe, because as always, more to come.